Ladies and gentlemen, we are 4.5 Marks, one man show edition. We had a little bit of emergency, so it's me, but I am your host. I am the Platinum Star, so I'm here to provide you with content because that's what I do. Obviously, due to emergency, we had to rework the show a little bit, but I had to figure out a good topic for me to talk about to you guys. So, best one I can think about is current events. Triple H is now running the WWE, which is insane with Vince McMahon stepping down finally. Well, I need to go back to explain, I guess, why this is potentially a good thing, why this is a kind of a dramatic thing. Triple H started running NXT, which NXT used to be just kind of a wrestling type game show of sense. Really never made any sense pairing up indie wrestlers with the current active WWE roster, but that's what they did, even though a lot of those indie wrestlers had more experience than their mentors, so to speak. Well, Triple H took it over, brought it as a promotion, and he got a lot of the indie stars to come along and start joining and start wrestling for them. And at first it was kind of slow. It was just something for them to get their reps in, started wrestling, started doing more on a live event crowd and a TV side of things. Well, eventually that turned into a little bit more of a juggernaut. When WWE announced their network, their streaming platform, they needed more content. So what's the best thing to do? Put up this show that is only on Florida TV onto the network and make it into something. So from there, he started to plan better rosters. We've seen El Generico, aka Sami Zayn, Kevin Steen, who's now Kevin Owens. We've seen the likes of Pac, who he's doing great things now, but he was Adrian Neville. We've seen a lot of guys, Samoa Joe, guys that we never thought we could have gotten a break in WWE going to NXT. So they could get a break there because NXT is a different animal. It was WWE's indies, especially during a time where there was no competition for WWE. It was stale. They didn't need to produce exciting content, so to speak. It was a rough time, and NXT was all we had to provide us with great storylines, to provide us with like refreshing gimmicks, something that wasn't overplayed. Sometimes we don't need a wrestler who's a doctor, or a wrestler who's like a dentist. Sometimes we just need a wrestler who's a wrestler, someone who can go, who can move, who knows what to do in the ring. But eventually, they started to get competition. New Japan Pro Wrestling started to build up hype in the U.S., and we saw likes of Kenny Omega rise and bring attention to it. The Young Bucks bring attention to it. And then once Cody left, he joined Ring of Honor New Japan. So NXT started to step up their game more, and it provided this crazy content. WWE, a lot of people will say, WWE was not a factor in this. They were not good. They were not providing excellent content. They were not giving us what we wanted. And, NXT was, New Japan was, the alternatives were. Unfortunately, NXT started to dimmer and fall and go down in the coming years, and not due to a little bit of their own demise, due to the Wednesday Night Wars. Now, we've all heard about the Monday Night Wars, WWE versus WCW. Well, there's the Wednesday Night Wars, when the Elite from New Japan, Kenny Omega, Cody, the Young Bucks, Hangman Adam Page, when they left, they created AEW with Tony Khan, who is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so they created AEW, and AEW was another alternative from New Japan. Impact was still kind of getting its footing back in. Since then, they have found their footing, but that's a side note. The Wednesday Night War was crazy because it was back to how it used to be. If you were a fan of both, you would flip through both and see. And Triple H ran NXT. He did everything, but unfortunately, they did not win the Wednesday Night Wars. They moved back. They moved to Tuesdays, NXT, and Vince blamed Triple H. He blamed him for losing, essentially. Even though they always claimed there was no Wednesday Night War, they lost. Their ratings were much lower. Their fan reaction was much lower on Wednesdays as opposed to AEW. We had much higher ratings. And it was not a good. At some points too, Friday Night SmackDown was their big juggernaut show with all the ratings because it was on Fox TV. A lot of times AEW would pull better than Fox, better than Raw, which is the flagship show. It was not a good time for them. So Vince McMahon, for whatever reason, he's never been a fan of indie wrestlers. He likes sports entertainers. And how do you get a sports entertainer? Find the biggest guy. Find a guy who looks big on TV, who looks presentable, who has this physique, and show him how to wrestle. And that's what he did, and that's what he turned NXT into. There were no indie wrestlers. It's all like other athletes, which is nothing bad because we've seen great things from just regular athletes like Bianca Belair. She was an Olympic gymnast, and she is a great wrestler. We've seen like powerlifters. We've seen a lot of people who have done good things, but it doesn't always translate well. We've seen it with a lot of the new NXT 2.0, as they call it, the new refurbished, bright and vibrant, youthful. But it's not the same thing. We don't have these compelling storylines. We have kind of the old Vince McMahon style of production where we see overproduction. We see too much. We see too much into the character work, which character work is great. I love character work. It is not always necessary to have it. It is not always necessary to flaunt it. Like I said earlier, sometimes you just want a wrestler to be a wrestler. You don't need a guy to be part of a mafia. You don't need a guy who's now who's a great wrestler now an Italian model. You don't need these things. Sure, if you play into it, why not? Sure, let's see a hairstylist become a wrestler. Why not? I'm down for it. But sometimes you don't need it. Sometimes when someone has this repertoire that they have, why change it? Why change something that's not broke? Well, since then, everything's just kind of been down. SmackDown's been okay. We've had some interesting storylines, mainly with Roman Reigns and his title reign, and now his double title reign. But nothing crazy. And we didn't know what was going to change, or if it was ever going to change. And then now Vince McMahon with allegations to him, with a lot of bad stuff going on with him. It does not look good. He has stepped down. Of course, there's everybody saying that he has not actually stepped down, that it's all for show, and it could be. But seeing Triple H come back, he had to leave for a while due to a heart problem. But now he's back. He's recovered. He's in full health. As soon as he's done recovering, hey, you're the head of talent relations. Awesome. So he gets to sign people. He gets to figure out what to do. Oh, hey, now you're just EVP. Now you just run the show. Awesome. And we've already seen pretty good changes, starting with SummerSlam. SummerSlam was a great show. I was not expecting it to be that good of a show, as opposed to the previous pay-per-views where they were kind of almost frustrating because it was like someone not realizing your intelligence to what you're watching, and it's not been a fun time. But now he's running it immediately with SummerSlam. It was great. First match was like Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch, and it was a good match. And after the match, Bayley returns, and then who else is there? Io Shirai, now going by Io Sky, who was reported to be out the door. She was just waiting for her contract to expire. She wasn't going to do anything. Her contract was going to expire later this year, and she was going to go back to Japan, go back to Stardom, go back and do whatever she wanted. And now she's staying. Why? Because Triple H. And not only that, Dakota Kai, who was released earlier this year, Gone. She was gone. And now she's back because Triple H knew her talent, saw her talent, and knows what to do with her. Vince McMahon, not so much. But we've gotten those three. We got Hit Row back recently. Hit Row was a stable that they formed, and it was kind of a hip hop rap stable that were wrestlers, but they did a really great job with it. It wasn't too gimmicky. They produce songs, and they actually do produce songs, and they're all very talented musicians. And now we see that in a wrestling aspect, and now they're back. They all got released. Of course, their leader Isaiah Swerve Scott, or now going as Shane Swerve Scott or Strickland. He signed with AEW, so we won't be seeing him in WWE back for a while. But we got them back. We got Karrion Kross back, who had a very sour taste in his mouth from being in WWE and being with Vince. With him, he's very gothic style. He is a brute. He's just here to hurt people. And then when he comes up, that was him in NXT. Comes up to WWE, now he's like an action figure. He's wearing gladiator armor. He's wearing gladiator helmets. Sometimes you overproduce. But we've seen them. We've seen Dexter Lumis come back. And it's really interesting seeing him back because they haven't officially announced him back. He's just been popping up on the sidelines in the fan crowds. He's jumped the barricade. He's done all this stuff, and every time he jumps the barricade, he gets arrested. So that's kind of interesting seeing that happen. It's a good storyline going on. We don't know where it's going. We'll see kind of what happens, but for future use, I think it's a great future coming for WWE. It's already a lot more interesting. We've had this talent come back. Sasha Banks is, waiting her contract out now and waiting to leave. Same with Naomi. Well, guess what? Triple H loves them. And Sasha Banks loves Triple H. She loved NXT. She loved being in that reign. And now he's back, so we could see her back. Seeing Naomi come back. We can see the likes of Bray Wyatt, who Vince didn't understand him, and they had a lot of creative differences and a lot of creative frustration. And now we've already seen hints of him coming back with last night's Monday Night Raw. We saw the brawl between Austin Theory and Dolph Ziggler, and in the background you see just a hand sticking out of a doorway. That's weird, but you see a glove, and that glove is very symbolic or resembles Bray Wyatt's glove with the hurt and heal. So could it be him? We don't know. We'll see. That's another thing. Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler is a great talent. He's wonderful on the mic, in the ring. Sure, he oversells sometimes. Who doesn't? Should we talk about Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan? Exactly my point. But Dolph Ziggler is being used, again, in a very, very good way. He's bringing up this talent, bringing up great storylines. Could we see Johnny Gargano back? Maybe. He hasn't signed anywhere. He hasn't been wanting to sign anywhere. He hasn't really done anything but signings. I totally get it. He's the new father. When I had my baby, I didn't want to do much either. I wanted to be at home with my wife and child, and that's what he wants to do. But, he has said he's ready to wrestle. He has that wrestling itch. He wants to get back in there. Well, it's just a matter of time to see. He could go to AEW, he could go to Impact, he could go to back home to WWE and have a good reign there. Tommaso Ciampa, he wasn't doing that well. Now it's a lot more interesting of what he's doing. With him on the reigns, we've been seeing, other new things like we've seen Mustafa Ali come back and get a push. Ricochet seems to be getting a push. Cedric Alexander was on TV. I haven't seen him on TV in I don't know how long. But they're on TV this last week. And they're able to show off what they can do and how impressive they are in the ring, which is great. We've seen people get their names back. There was a weird thing with Vince McMahon where he would cut people's names off, like Cesaro used to be Antonio Cesaro, Alexander Rusev. We had Garza, now he's back to his name, Angel Garza. Ciampa's just Ciampa, but it's Tommaso Ciampa. It's better sounding. It rolls off the tongue. Two names. We have Riddle. Hopefully, he gets Matt Riddle back, because Matt Riddle, if you don't know, or if the name sounds familiar, former UFC fighter turned wrestler after he was fired from UFC. He is a great talent. He knows what he's doing, and because he has that background, he knows how to make it look better and look good. And he's getting a push. He's not getting jobbed out to Seth Rollins every week. We've had a pretty decent rivalry with that. We'll get some call-ups here soon. Zoe Stark and Nikita Lyons are part of the women's tag team tournament, and so Zoe Stark has been wrestling for a while now. So has Nikita Banana, super high level. She was in WoW. What is it? Wonderful, or no, Women of Wrestling. That's what it is. Women of Wrestling. She was a lioness in that, and now we're seeing her. She needed NXT to get some more exposure, and now she's good. We're also seeing some good rivalries. We have one thing about the Attitude Era that I really liked is that they had interwoven storylines. It wasn't just one person rival with this one guy. It was there's this guy, there's this issue that I have to go back to. There's all these different things, and we haven't really had that. It's been very linear. It's been like with, for example, Roman Reigns. It's like, hey, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, done. But now recently, like Drew McIntyre has Brock Lesnar, he had Sheamus, now he has Karrion Kross. Is he gonna have anybody else? We'll see. We kind of have that with Austin Theory and Mustafa, but Mustafa's also rivaling with Tommaso, and Tommaso's also going against AJ, and AJ's going against The Miz, but then Miz is also going against Mustafa Ali again. But now we're seeing AJ and Bobby Lashley and Lashley and Theory. It's like all these things interwoven. It's great. It's great to have a pool of different things to pull the threads at and see what we get. It's like knitting. You need different thread colors. You just gotta mix it together and you get a cool scarf. I don't know why I use that, but I used it. It works. I mentioned, the SummerSlam being a great pay-per-view. We're going to get these higher quality pay-per-views. We're going to get these better storylines. Again, sometimes a wrestler needs to be a wrestler. Sometimes you just I need to beat this guy. I need to fight this guy in order to get to a title. We don't need this whole played out drama. Wrestling's always been described as a men's like soap opera, and it can be. I watch it for a little bit of the storyline or the storytelling, but some of those storylines are interesting, but sometimes I just want to see two guys fight each other or two women fight each other because they don't like each other, or because it's like in order for me to win this title, I have to beat you, and if you get back up, I have to keep beating you down. Things like that. It's great. We'll kind of see the next pay-per-views coming up. We have Clash at the Castle, which is a over the seas pay-per-view in Scotland, I want to say. Pretty sure Scotland. Don't know where in Scotland. Card for that's looking pretty good. We have Drew McIntyre against Roman Reigns. We have Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins. We have do we have Bianca versus Bayley? Maybe we have that. We have quite a few matches. I just can't remember off the top of my head, but it's looking like a good card. It looks interesting. We'll see. Changes take time. I didn't expect to see this big of a impact so soon, with all these people returning, all these other people teasing returns, but we're getting them. I expected it to take maybe about a year. You can't just have a hard reset. You could, but it's very jarring. It's not natural. We can't. Some people we'll tune in, and now it's completely different. If they missed like the first hour, it's like, what's going on now? No, this last week they were, for example, like maybe last week they were rivaling. Now they're tag team. Like, why? You got to fix what's going on now. I'm just excited for these changes. I'm excited to see people get their names back. I hate Butch, but I love Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne's a fantastic wrestler, but he does not need to be called Butch. Walter, or Gunther, as they're calling him now. I hope he gets his name back. Walter, a wrestler who is a wrestler. He is not a sports entertainer as Vince liked him to say. He is a wrestler. He is a big man with big hands that can chop your heart out. It's insane. Look up Walter. Look up his chops. You'll hear how nasty they are. You'll see his handprint. Just look up Walter versus Ilya Dragunov, because that man, he's not. I don't think Ilya's much bigger than me. I think he's smaller than me, and Walter's huge. He's about Tyler Bonblanco's size, and with big old hands. So that hand just covers that chest, and you're just going at it. You see that handprint from the very beginning. It's great. It's great to see this. It's great to see him being used. There was rumors that Vince McMahon had soured on him. He didn't understand the hype. He didn't understand him. He's won the IC title, but he was going to drop it soon. But hey, let's get that. The Intercontinental title used to be a second world title. You were still a champion. You were still the top guy. If you held any of those titles, you were the top. But now we don't get that. You're only the top if you have the main title. Well, let's see if that changes. See, Walter has already had some pretty good matches defending that title against Ricochet, he just won against Shinsuke Nakamura. That match, I haven't watched that match, but that match was probably really good and very physical because Shinsuke comes from New Japan, and as we've talked about, very much hard-hitting style. Walter has that hard-hitting style as well. So it's just going to be kind of a fight. So let's see a fight. Let's see a match. Let's see something crazy happen. Why not? Overall, I think it's a good thing that Vince has stepped down. I've said many times, at some point I will release the episode 0 video where I mentioned Triple H taking over would be a good thing. Triple H, it's going to be a great thing for business, going to be a great thing for the wrestling industry. You need competition or else it gets stale, We saw it so many years for WWE. We're starting to see it a little bit for AEW. It's getting a little stale here at times. Impact has been honestly rivaling themselves because they just want to do better. And New Japan got stale for a little bit. It was stale for a long time. Got way better. Got stale for a little bit. Now it's doing good again. Competition's good. And we'll have competition with Triple H. And I think all will be good. Good in the world. But that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening to me rant. Thank you for watching as well, wherever you're watching this on. But remember, if that check bounces, so do you.